I just want to invest in people that really want to be the best that they can be.
Hello, Summit Funding past clients and business people. It's Jim Reed and Robyn LaVassaur and Todd Scrima coming here to do a podcast about how to build $1 to $5 million in real estate equity. So that is building wealth through real estate, and it's a huge subject. I guess I've come to know it as like people don't do it because they're scared about it, right? They're intimidated. And I just want to have a free-flowing conversation about this so that we can talk about it in general. Robyn, give me some opening thoughts on building real estate equity. And you and Jim have done a good job, but I don't think a lot of people understand when we're having this subject, guys, it's not just our personal wealth building. We do loans for people that have 10, 20, 30, $40 million in real estate equity sometimes. So we see how they do it. So I just wanted to say that for the listener because they're like, okay, yeah, I know they do loans, but when we do the loans, we see all the net worth, right? So we see people who actually do it besides ourselves.
Yeah. My initial thoughts as you were saying it was kind of giggling, if you will, like, hey, buy a house in California in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and live in it for 30 years. And for sure, you've got $1 million down the road. So, but I actually think that's kind of the old school. What we hear constantly now is so many influencers, if you will, influencers by the way of social media, seminars, different things, really constantly teach real estate wealth. The reason that so many people teach it is clearly it's something that everybody can technically get their hands on. And I think that's one of my favorite things about it. I think that sometimes people get, yes, you can get your hands on the stock market and those types of things, but it's really a very tangible item that somebody can not only benefit from for themselves, but then long-term benefit it to legacy of family. I mean, just, overall growth. And it's, I think there's a rhythm to it. I also think it's really great that there are multiple ways to get there. What do you think, Jimmy?
Yeah, it's generational wealth, right? Real estate is generational wealth. But I think, my family is super blue collar. And I don't know, I think all of your guys' families were super blue collar too. So for me, there's kind of 2 or 3 reasons why people don't really jump in and try to and work on creating wealth in real estate. Here's what they are. Number one is they're scared because it's such a big cash flow asset issue. They're very scared of bankruptcy, and for sure they know somebody who had a bad experience, right? Mortgage meltdown, people losing houses, doing short sales, foreclosures. So there's some fear involved. And of course, grandpa's telling you to be careful, right? And grandpa's got to be quiet a little bit. You know what I mean? They hold us back a little bit. The second reason I think that people don't really pursue this is that there's not a lot of mentorship. Now, here's what I mean. There's tons of real estate agents who will earn a commission selling you a house. But that makes me scared of their advice. That makes sense? So lack of real mentorship, like, hey, what do I do step by step with someone that I can trust that doesn't have a win in there so I can trust their advice? And then I think there's a lack of long-term thinkers. Like, Todd, how many people listening to this when Robyn was talking about, buy a house in California 30 years ago and you'd have the equity? Like my mom and dad bought their first house for $27,000, right? And then people think, Todd, that, okay, if that house right now in California is $1 million, we drove by it not too long ago, it's $1 million house in San Jose. And they think, well, in 30 years, it's not going to be worth $10 million. That won't happen again. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So not only not long-term, but also smaller thinkers, right? Like we apply that map. You also said on point number 2, Jimmy, somebody that you trust, you said the realtor selling. I would attest also that that's also a loan officer, right? Having the right advisory crew in that is like a really big part of the equation for both program, product, maneuvering, truth talking, if you will, advice.
You got to spend some time like educating yourself. You got to spend some time talking to people so you can let your gut tell you which one to follow, right? That's what I think holds people back the most. But if you look at people who have a lot of wealth, more than like if they have like legacy wealth, they were doing like, tobacco when you weren't supposed to, alcohol when you weren't supposed to. Like, I'm just telling you, bro. Like those, like the
Those
Kennedys, like
moonshiners.
literally, yeah. Or it's real estate,
Yeah.
right?
Wait,
Unless if you didn't
you
invent
watch
something,
Shark Tank and those kind of things. Like it's literally most of those people
it
built
really
their
is.
wealth through real estate. It's 100% true. So how do we do
Yeah.
it?
Well,
Strategically, right?
I'll tell you guys a story. And this story really changed my whole life. I don't know. I remember I was right around 2 years in the business, and my assistant comes in my office, and this guy, she says, "Hey, your 10 o'clock's here," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll be right out." She says, "He's got a gun." I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! What do you mean?" Like I'm freaking out. Like he's carrying like a pistol. He's like, "Well, no, he's packing the gun. Oh, concealed weapon, or I'm sure he's got a permit. I'll be right out." So I go out, and let's just say this guy's name is Eddie. Let me just say that Eddie was a little intimidating, and he did have a big old, a pistol on his side that you could see. He had a concealed, weapons permit. So I get to know Eddie. Here's Eddie's story. High school dropout, became a gangbanger when he was 16. Actually went to prison for 3 years. I didn't ask him why.
I wouldn't either.
He comes to me to buy a duplex. He was going to live in one side, rent out the other side.
Uh-huh.
Comes to me a year later, bought another duplex, right? This is all legal stuff, minimum down, because he's going to live in one side. He fulfilled his 1 year commitment on the first duplex, and then he just repeated it. Came to me about a year after that, took cash out of those two duplexes and bought a fourplex. You get where I'm going. This guy just kept, every year he'd come see me and would buy more properties. And sometimes they were single family, sometimes they were duplexes, sometimes they're fourplexes. I remember one time he bought a small apartment building, like 16 units that I couldn't help him with. Fast forward to 2020 is the last time I talked to him, had 62 rentals, a net worth of $8 million, and had positive cash flow of $44,000 a month.
Wow. He's not risk averse. In other words, he's not scared.
No, he wasn't risk averse, and he wasn't dumb. He would show me all his research that he did. He had it all on spreadsheets every time he bought a property. My point is, here's my big point. Anyone can do this. This guy had a lot of gumption and a lot of drive, and in the beginning of his life, misfocused, and then he refocused in the right area and just blew up. But not fast. I mean, we're talking 25 years it took him to get all those 62 properties. So this is not like overnight. Okay. Tell you another quick story. This is a yesterday story. Yesterday. Okay. Talked to this lady, and she is talking to me about the residential care home business, which is can be a great business. Basically, you take care of old people and you charge $6,000 to $9,000 a month per room, and you could do it in a residential house. Okay, so this lady's making like $30,000 a month owning residential homes. So I'm like, how many do you have? I'm at a social event, and she's all 33. Oh, 33 patients? She's all, no, 33 houses.
Whoa.
I said, let me get this straight. You're making $30,000 a month per house. That's $900,000 a month, and you own 33 of them.
Net?
She's got mortgages on some of them.
Okay, got it.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna have to go meet with
No,
her.
that's a short 20-year story. She's been doing it 20 years. So it's not like overnight. Started out with one, learned the business, but it's a form of owning real estate. It's a form of owning real estate and running a business. Robyn, you're muted.
Sorry about that microphone or space bar. That's more than a house a year over a 20-year run, though. That's, pretty impressive with retention. And not that she did it all that way, one house per year, but 33 homes in ownership long term is a very impressive real estate portfolio. You're humble, Todd. You don't ever talk about your real estate portfolio, but just credibility wise, what's your net worth in real estate right now?
Over 150 million in free and clear real estate. And it's commercial, it's residential, it's loan servicing, it's private notes, it's all, manufactured homes. So I have a lot of different water rights. I own a bunch of water rights. So I have a very diverse background because, the reason that the reason I started all that, if I were to boil it all down, is because of Eddie walking into my office and watching him over 2-3 years get all these properties. And I was like, so after I saw him do it, I bought my first fourplex.
So seeing somebody else do it got you inspired to do it yourself.
100%. Yeah.
That in itself is a great tactic.
Yeah. So
can I jump on that for a second or no?
Yeah.
So those are big stories. Like that lady, that's a big story.
It seems unrelatable.
Yeah, and Eddie, yeah. So I learned this from a realtor friend of mine named Tom, and he's retired now. Gosh, I haven't talked to him in a while. I gotta call him. And we used to do these. We would put a big, easy ups. We'd put 4 easy ups in his front yard. He lived out in the country, and we would do home buy investment property seminars for his database 4 times a year, like quarterly, right? And he would have lemonade, and his wife would make food, and his database would come, and we would teach him some stuff about real estate. And his story was that he bought his first house, lived in it for 3 or 4 years, and then got married. So I needed a bigger house, kept it, rented it out, and bought a bigger home, and then lived in that one for 3 or 4 years. And then they wanted to move out of the city, so they wanted to move up to the foothills like Folsom, because whatever. So kept the second home and rented that one out and moved up to Folsom and lived there. And then just kept those 3 properties and paid all the extra rents and everything down on the mortgages as they went through life. And then 1031 exchanged the 2 properties to a beach house. 1031 exchange is a technique where you can sell rental property, then buy another rental property without paying any kind of income tax or long-term or short-term capital gain. And those 2 houses were $1.2 million in equity by the time he sold them and bought the beach house. Plus he had his third home that he lived in, the nicest home, which was $1 million in equity. And he sold that, and he ended up having $2.5 million in equity just from 3 simple houses that he kept throughout his life. Instead of selling one to buy one, just waited a little longer, Todd, until he had a little more money in the bank, just a little longer, a year or 2, and just kept them as he went without some big monster plan, but had a long-term mindset. And I think that's what you got to have to do this real estate thing.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't have.
Well, I don't think people know how to do it. I don't think there's a lot of authentic teachers out there. And I think that people think of it like, they're talking about owning a bunch of rentals or something. So that's actually not, for most people, I don't think that's necessary, number one. Number two, you can make plenty of money just doing what Jim just said, right, with that story. So I'm not talking about, hey, everyone's got to start a care home or have VRBO strategies or own apartment buildings. There's so many simple strategies. I'll give you another one. I got these neighbors 2 doors down, and they become friends of mine. And our kids play together, and the guy plays in a country band, so he and I play guitar, and they're just good people. And so they live down the street in that house. Then they rehabbed it. Then they bought 2 doors down. Bought that house, rehabbed it. Then they bought the duplex. There's like a really nice duplex 2 doors down from that. And they bought that and rehabbed that. So as I get to know them, she's like a executive for a company, and the husband is a stay-at-home dad, but he's a contractor by trade. So he fixes up these houses. Well, if you live in it for a couple of years, you can sell it and take all the money tax-free. A lot of people don't even know that. So they've done it now 8 times. Lived in a house for 2 years, fixed it up, remodeled it, added a bedroom, whatever, sold it, bought the next one. So they have this huge net worth now from doing this 8 times. And they have other real estate things going on as well, but that's been their main thing. That's some people listening to this, your husband or wife is a contractor. You could do that. Now, you may say, I don't want to move every 2 years. Great, move every 4 years, right? But you should probably use that strategy. You're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars you could make just doing that. So, Robyn?
Well, I think there's a couple things with it. You're 100% right what you're saying. I think that the pace and the inconveniences is, again, Jim talked about thinking more long term. Like, you've seen people build wealth by living in one side of that duplex and then buying the next one and then keeping their home and having it as a rental. And maybe it's not uber profitable up front, but in the long term, there's great wealth there, but there's some sacrifices. Maybe you live for a couple of years, again, tax-free money. But the truth is, I think having a plan and understanding the rules. I can't tell you how many people I've sat down with. They actually don't even understand it. They don't understand the tax implications or benefits, if you will. They don't understand that. I think I want to keep this house. Great. Why? They don't even really know. And so I think education is the biggest upfront piece to it. And knowing that it really starts with your first primary residence, right? It really starts with your first primary residence. And the sooner and earlier, I've never met somebody that bought a home in their early 20s that says, man, I regret that first purchase.
Yeah.
Ever. But I have a lot of people in their 30s that say, I wish I would have bought 10 years ago.
Yeah, I never thought about that. I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Right.
100%. You're right. You bring up a good thing about education. So, and I want to be careful. This is going out to all the past clients of Summit Funding. So it's hundreds of thousands of people. So this was about 7 months ago, and I'm like, hey Todd, you love to give back to your past clients. You've developed this huge fortune in all kinds of different real estate ventures. And I've helped thousands of people become investors and also seen thousands of people doing loans for them over the years become wealthy with different all kinds of different investment strategies. So what I decided to do is develop a whole class around, like a bunch of I packaged everything and recorded a bunch called Real Estate University. It's like 90 different tactics that I teach. Some of it's online, and I do a live coaching call for an hour a week, helping people decipher through properties and all kinds of stuff. I call it Real Estate University. And we're offering it to past clients of Summit Funding. And I would say it's almost free. If I sell it to the public, it's not free at all. It's very expensive. But for past clients of Summit, I make it super affordable. And I do that on purpose to say thank you for your business. So, but there's everything on there from mindset around money to stuff in there for first-time home buyers, stuff in there for people who want to buy apartments, people who want VRBO strategies. There's a whole, this is my favorite, there's a whole section in there for young individuals. So if you are a part of this, your children, 25 and under, can participate in learning about money. And I keep everything super simple. Like, I don't know how I do this. People have asked me, like, I have a way of taking a complicated subject and making it explainable to like a 15-year-old. And every single module that's taught is done that way. I personally think either like people overcomplicate stuff all the time. I don't find that most of this stuff is that complicated. There's 3, 4, 5 things you really need to know and understand. The rest is just about the execution. So, if you want more information on that, you can respond to however you're receiving this. Could be social media, could be email, text, whatever, and we'll get you a video that you can watch that gives you a very detailed overview of all this. But I'm very excited about it. It's one of those things. I call it a passion project. So, Jim, you know what a passion project is?
Yeah, it's me learning to fly fish.
Yeah. Right, Jim and I love fly fishing.
I have dreams about it. I wake up in the middle of the night and my elbow's going like this. Passion project, buddy.
Passion project. Like you would do, I say it, passion project in work is you would do it for free. Like I literally love teaching people this stuff. It's so fun. And I think it's such a great opportunity. And I especially think about people that are maybe buying their first home or their second home, and they've got a 20, 30, 40, 50-year runway because that's explosive wealth if someone starts younger, right? Younger the better because of the time value of money. So very exciting stuff. So I'm not trying to hard sell it, but if you want information on it, I'd love to get it to you. And it's just a video you can watch. And then if you want more information, we can get you set up with someone on that. But I'm very excited about it. I think it's so much fun. It's like, this is an example. Robyn was talking about, follow people that have results. So I'm going to buy my first commercial building years ago, and I'm scared. Like I was in the offer stage, and I call up this guy, and I knew him just a little bit, and I was like, "Hey, could I come meet with you? Like, I'm a little over my skis." Like, and he's like, "Yeah." He ends up meeting with me for 2 hours. He looks at it literally in about 10 minutes. He looked at all the paperwork. He's all, "Don't buy that property." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "It's selling cheap because you don't have parking. You don't have enough parking for a big tenant. It's this big property, but and I can tell that by the parking, there's not enough parking." I was literally going to buy a building that was almost worthless because I was missing one thing. Right? I didn't know how to analyze it. So, bigger pile principle.
Yeah, for sure. Listen to people who have done it and done it well. That's for sure. And you're definitely one of those people, Todd.
Well, and Robyn, I'm talking to your husband, who's a contractor, and talking to him about some real estate stuff, right? And I think I'll get him to do it. Next year or two, I'll get him to pull the trigger.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that we're all born with unique gifts, if you will, and then develop skill sets over time. One of the biggest wastes is not putting them to work that end up helping us grow in wealth and that generational wealth that Jimmy talked about at the beginning. And real estate is a beautiful tool to do that if you understand how to navigate it.
100%. Okay, guys. Well, listen, I hope you guys have a great month. Jim and Robyn, thank you as usual. This is always fun to do with you guys. Always learn a lot. I hope you guys enjoy this and take some action with it, please. Thank you, guys. Have a great month.